Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be solving the NCERT Exemplar questions from the topic reproduction. So I would like to mention that all the questions in this lecture are completely NCERT based. In the last lecture, we discussed the multiple choice questions, and today in this lecture we'll be discussing the very short answer type questions. So let's start with the question number 1. So question number 1 is, mention two inherent characteristics of amoeba and yeast that enable them to reproduce asexually. Alright? So, inherent characteristic of amoeba. So these are all microscopic organism. Amoeba, is a bacteria. It is unicellular. Yeast is a eukaryote. It belongs to kingdom fungi. Okay? So here you have to mention the characteristic of amoeba and yeast that enable them to reproduce asexually. Okay, asexual reproduction, you already know. What is asexual reproduction? Where only single parent is involved. Okay, or you can write where only one parent is involved. Okay, and what is the next thing? The offerings produced are similar to each other and they are similar to the parent as well. Okay, so we call them clones. So clones are produced because of the asexual reproduction. And what are clones? They are genetically similar to the parents. Or you can also say they are the exact copy of the parents. You can also say they are the exact copies of the parents. Okay? Now, let's have a look at the answer. The characteristic of amoeba and yeast to reproduce asexually are as follows. So, first one is they are unicellular organism. Okay, so we can write unicellularity. Okay, they have very simple organization. Alright, they are primitive organisms, both amoeba and yeast. They are very primitive. Okay, and primitive organisms were mostly unicellular. Okay, they show unicellularity. Alright, and because they are unicellular, okay, the entire life processes are carried out by the single cell. Alright, now what is the next point? They have simple body organization. Alright, their body is very simple, it is not complex. The body of the higher organism is complex, but the body of the primitive organism that are unicellular, it is very simple. Alright, now let's have a look at the third point, uniparental condition. So in asexual reproduction, you already know only one parent is involved. Okay, so we can write uniparental conditions. So these are the features or characteristic, okay, of amoeba and yeast. Because of that, or because of these features and characteristic, they can reproduce by asexual method. Okay, amoeba, it can reproduce by binary fission. Binary fission. Yeast, okay, yeast can reproduce by budding. Okay, there is cell division and offerings are formed which are identical to the parent. Now, moving on to the next question. Why do we refer to offering formed by asexual method reproduction as clones? This we have already discussed. Why we refer to offerings formed by asexual method? Offerings, you can also say progeny. Okay, formed by asexual method of reproduction are clones. So the progeny or the offerings are called clones. The question is, why they are called clones? So let's have a look at the answer. Now, the reproduction is called asexual. So first, let's discuss what is asexual reproduction. Again, now the reproduction is called asexual when offerings is produced by a single parent. This we have already discussed. Means in asexual reproduction, one parent is involved. Uniparental. Okay? And in asexual reproduction, the offerings are formed without the involvement of gamete formation. Okay? No gametes are formed during the asexual reproduction. And as a result, the offerings that are produced are not only similar to one another. This also we have discussed. The offerings that are produced as a result of asexual reproduction, they are similar to one another, and also they are exact copies of their parent. Okay. Now, such a group of morphologically and genetically similar individuals are called clones. That's why the offering produced by asexual reproduction is known as clones. Okay. So, let's take an example of binary fusion in bacteria. So, if this is a cell, it divides into two cells. Alright. Now, these two cells are similar to each other, and this cell will be genetically similar to the parent also. So, this was the parent. Only single parent is involved in asexual reproduction, and these are the offsprings. Okay. Or the progeny, you can say. Alright. So, this is clear why we call the progeny or the offerings that are produced during asexual reproduction as clones. Also, I would like to mention that during asexual reproduction, no gametes are formed. Okay, there is no fusion of gametes and only one parent is involved. Okay, one parent is involved. So, because of that, there is no mixing of the genetic material Okay, so there is no mixing of the genetic material. Alright, so the offerings formed are exactly similar to the parents. Now, moving on to the next question. So, next question is, although potato tuber is an underground part, it is considered as a stem. So, we have to give reasons why the potato tuber, which is underground. Okay, so usually stem is aerial. Okay, this you know that stem is always aerial. But in potato, you know the potato tuber is underground. It is below the ground. Okay. So why still we call the potato tuber, which is underground, as stem? As stem is always aerial. Okay. So let's have a look at the answer. So this is a potato. Okay. Which is grown underground. Here you can see these are the buds. Here is the germinating eye bud. Alright. Germinating eye bud represents the nodes. Okay. And here are the nodes. Okay. You can see root here. Alright. Now, potato tuber is considered as a stem because of the following reasons. Alright. So let's first discuss what is a stem. So stem is aerial. Okay. It is above the ground. And stem consists of nodes and internodes. Okay, so this is a feature of a stem. Apart from this, stem bear leaves and branches. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the answer. Now the potato tuber has nodes and internodes. Okay, which is a feature of what? Which is a feature of stem. That's why we can call potato tuber as a stem. So potato tuber is basically a modified stem. Okay. So potato tuber, you can say it is a modified stem. Okay. Now, another reason, the leafy should appear from the nodes. So this also, I've already told you, stem consists of nodes and internodes, and from nodes, the leafy shoots can arise. So this is also a feature of a stem. Okay, it consists of branches and leaves. So from the potato tuber, or you can say from the nodes of the potato tuber, leafy shoots can appear. That's why potato tuber is known as what? A stem. It is a modified stem which is underground and it stores food. So you can say here the stem in potato is storing food. Okay. Now, let's talk about the fourth question. Between an annual and a perennial plant. Okay, annual and a perennial plant. Which one has a shorter juvenile phase? And you have to give a reason. Alright. So you already know what are annual and perennial plant. Annual plant, they complete their life cycle in 1 year. Perennial plants, they complete their life cycle in many years. Alright. And one more thing. Here they are saying about the juvenile phase. Okay. So if we talk about plants, or we can say life cycle of the plant, it is divided into two phases. First is juvenile phase. Okay. And second is the reproductive phase. Juvenile phase and reproductive phase. Alright, in juvenile phase, what happens? There is the vegetative growth. Okay. And during reproductive phase, what happens? There is development of flowers. Okay. Reproductive organs and all. Flower consists of male and female reproductive parts. Alright. So a life cycle of a plant consists of two phases, juvenile phase and a reproductive phase. So let's talk about the answer. So in the lifespan, the organism has to grow and develop. Okay. And that happens in the juvenile phase. So growth and development happens during the juvenile phase. After the juvenile phase, okay, the organisms mature. They mature sexually, okay, and enter into a reproductive phase. So this I've already told you. First is juvenile phase. Second is the reproductive phase. All right. And after reproductive phase, what happens? It undergoes senescence, and which is followed by death. Okay. So you can write it like this. First is the juvenile phase. Then is the reproductive phase. Then after reproductive phase, the organism or the plant undergo senescence. Alright, and after senescence, what happens? Death. So senescence leads to death. Alright. So this is the life cycle of the plant. Now, since the entire life cycle of the annual plant is shorter and has to be completed in one growing season. Okay, this you have to remember. What are annual plants which complete their life cycle in one growing season? The juvenile phase is shorter than that of the perennial plant. Okay, perennial plant takes so many years to complete their life cycle. So in perennial plant, the juvenile phase is okay much larger than the annual plants. Or annual plants, you can say, have a shorter juvenile phase in which growth and development takes place, and then the plant enter into the reproductive phase in which the seeds are formed. Okay, fruits are formed, seeds are formed after the reproductive phase. Now let's talk about the question 5. Here you have to rearrange the following events of events of the sexual reproduction in the sequence in which they occur in the flowering plant. Alright. So flowering plant you have to, what are flowering plants? Flowering plants are also known as angiosperms. So here they are talking about angiosperms. Angiosperms are the group of plant that have flowers. So that's why they are known as the flowering plants. Alright. So the events has been given. Okay. Embryogenesis is given, fertilization, gametogenesis, and pollination is given. So these are the events of the sexual reproduction. You have to arrange them. Alright. So you already know what happens during gametogenesis. Okay. During gametogenesis, gametes are formed. So first gametes will form. Okay. Then the gametes will be transferred from one plant to another plant or within the same plant also. So next will be pollination. Okay. And what is pollination? Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains, or you can write pollens simply, from the anther. Okay, pollens are produced in the anthers to the stigma of the same flower, you can say, or to the different flower, okay, or from one plant to another plant. All right. So after this transfer of pollen grains, what will happen? Fertilization. Fertilization will take place. And what is fertilization? Fertilization is the union of or the fusion of the gametes. So after pollination, fertilization will take place. The male and female gamete will fuse together. Okay, and after their fusion, what will happen? A zygote will form. All right, and zygote will divide to produce the embryo. Okay, so fourth will be embryogenesis. All right, this is clear. So here I've given you a thinking process. So this will help you understand this question better and you can answer this question better. Now the gametes need to be formed first. This I've already told you, the gametes need to be formed first. Okay, so this is known as gametogenesis. Gamete formation. All right, and then pollination. Pollination ensures the transfer of the gametes so that fertilization can take place. So next will be fertilization, and then fertilized zygote divides and differentiates during embryogenesis. Okay, so what happens? First gametes are produced. One will be male gamete, another will be female gamete. So they will fuse. Okay, and a diploid structure will form, which is known as zygote. Okay, then zygote will further divide, okay, by mitosis to form the embryo. All right. So these are the stages of the sexual reproduction, or you can say events of the sexual reproduction. First is gametogenesis, then pollination, then fertilization, and then embryogenesis. All right. So this should be your answer. So the correct sequence of events of sexual reproduction in the flowering plant are as follows. First will be gametogenesis, second will be pollination, then fertilization, and then embryogenesis. Okay. So after the formation of zygote, I've already told you, two gametes they fuse together to form a zygote. which is diploid. Okay, this is diploid zygote. All right, then this zygote will divide further. Okay, there will be cell division as well as cell differentiation. Okay, and then what it will form? It will form an embryo. All right, now let's talk about the next question. The probability of fruit set in a self-pollinated bisexual flower of a plant is far greater than the dioecious plant. Okay, now bisexual flower and dioecious plant, these are the two terms that they have mentioned. So what is bisexual flower? Bisexual flower, you already know. Okay, that consists of both the reproductive structure. Means both male and female reproductive structures. Now what is dioecious? Dioecious represents the unisexual condition. So unisexual conditions means, okay, the flower will have either the male reproductive organ or the female reproductive organ. So this is known as the dioecious condition. It represents the unisexual condition. Now they are saying the probability of fruit set in a self-pollinated bisexual flower of a plant is far greater than the dioecious plant. So we have to explain this. Okay, let's have a look at the answer. The probability of fruit set in a self-pollinated. So it's a bisexual flower. So in bisexual flower, self-pollination takes place. Means the pollen grains from the anther are transferred to the stigma of the, okay, stigma of the same flower. This is known as self-pollination. It is pollinating itself. All right. Now, the probability of fruit set in a self-pollinated bisexual flower of a plant is far greater than a dioecious plant. Why? So, in self-pollinated bisexual flowers, transfer of pollen to the stigma of the flower is easier. Okay, it is easier because no pollinator is required here. Okay, it is easier, it is very fast. Okay, the pollens are transferred from the anther of the same flower to the stigma of the same flower. All right, but it is not easy in dioecious plant. For dioecious plant, you require a pollinator. Okay, so in bisexual flower, the anther and the stigma lie close to each other and pollination is not affected even in the absence of a pollinator. So it is not mandatory, it is not necessary that a pollinator is required, such as bee, wind, okay, any pollinator. So in bisexual flowers, that's why fruit set is easy because self-pollination is easy. But what happens in dioecious plant? In dioecious plant, pollinator is necessary to bring out the effective pollination as the anther and stigma lie away from each other. Okay. So dioecious plant, they are unisexual. So they require a pollinator. As I've already told you, it can be wind, it can be any insect. Okay, it can be water. Alright, so pollinator is necessary to pollinate the dioecious plants because the anther and the stigma, they lie away from each other in different flowers. Okay, so that's why fruit set is a bit difficult in dioecious plants. Now let's talk about the seventh question. In the presence of large number of chromosomes in an organism, a hindrance to sexual reproduction. Justify your answer by the suitable reasons. Okay, so here they are saying presence of large number of the chromosomes if an organism consists of large number of chromosomes, does it affect the sexual reproduction? Okay, you have to justify your answer using the reasons. So, answer is no. The presence of large number of chromosomes in an organism is not a hindrance to sexual reproduction. Okay, so the number of the chromosome, okay, does not affect the sexual reproduction. So you can write here the number of the chromosome. Okay, it does not affect, okay, it does not affect the sexual reproduction. Alright, for example, Ophioglossum, it is a fern. It has chromosome number of 1260, but still it can reproduce sexually. Alright, so the chromosome number does not, okay, define whether the plant will reproduce sexually or asexually, or you can say the number of the chromosome, okay, is not an hindrance to the sexual reproduction. Now, in higher organisms, the chromosomes are present in compartment called nucleus. This you already know. Okay, the chromosomes are present in the nucleus. Genetic material is present in the nucleus, and nucleus is present within the cell. Whether the number is small or large, the chromosomes are duplicated and then segregated inside this compartment. Alright, and this happens during the cell division. The basis of sexual reproduction is the generation of the haploid gametes. Okay, so the sexual reproduction depends on the formation of haploid gametes and not the number of the chromosomes. Alright, so this is clear. So number of chromosomes doesn't affect the sexual reproduction, but sexual reproduction can be affected by the generation of the haploid gametes. So generation of haploid gametes is mandatory for sexual reproduction. Now let's talk about question number 8. Now, is there a relationship between the size of the organism, now they are saying, and its lifespan? You have to give 2 examples in support of your answer. So, there is no relationship between the size of the organism, okay, and the lifespan of the organism. Here are the examples. The mango tree has a shorter lifespan as compared to the peepal tree, though both are of the same size. Okay, peepal tree and the mango tree both are of the same size, but mango tree has a shorter lifespan. So, the size of the organism is not dependent or does not determine the lifespan of the organism. Now, second point, the size of the crow and the parrot is almost same. This you already know, you have seen, but the lifespan of crow is 15 years only. Okay, and life cycle or the lifespan of parrot is 150 years. Okay, so there is a huge difference, but the size of both crow and parrot is almost same. So there is no relationship between the size and the lifespan of the organism. Now question number 9. In the figure given below, the plant bears 2 types of flowers, okay, marked as A and B. You have to identify the types of flowers and state the type of pollination that occurs in them. Alright, so a figure will be given to you. In that figure, okay, A and B is given. You have to mention which kind of flowers are those, and then you have to mention the which type of pollination occurs in these flowers. Okay, so this is the figure. You can have a look at the figure. Alright, now let's have a look at the answer. So in the figure given below, the plant bears following 2 types of flowers. Okay, so A, so these are the chasmogamous flower. We will discuss about this, what are chasmogamous, and B, these are the clastogamous flowers. So you can see here the flowers are open. flowers are open here, and in Cleistogamous, flowers are closed. So in closed flower, usually what happens? Self-pollination, because they are closed. So self-pollination happens here. In open flower, self-pollination or cross-pollination both can take place. So chasmogamous flower, you have already seen the flower remain open, exposing anthers and the stigma. Okay, so these can be cross-pollinated as well. Now, cleistogamous flower, here the flower remain closed. Okay, so that the anthers and the stigma are never exposed to the external, to the other pollen grains. Okay, now following are the types of pollination that will occur in these flowers. So now let's have a look at the types of the pollination. Okay, so these are the type of the pollination that can occur in these flowers. First is autogamy. So autogamy, it is a kind of self-pollination. It is a kind of self-pollination. Okay, in autogamy what happens? There is a transfer of the pollens to the stigma within the same flower. Okay, there is a transfer of the pollens to the stigma of the same flower, or you can say within the same flower. Now second, netogamy. Alright, here what happens? Different flower of the same plant. Okay, here the flowers are different, but both the flowers are present on the same plant. Okay, this is known as netogamy. Means transfer of the pollens. Okay, transfer of the pollens from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower. Stigma of another flower. But that flower will be, or both these flowers will be present on the same plant. This is known as netogamy. A third one is xenogamy. So in xenogamy, what happens? It is a type of, you can say, cross-pollination. Okay. So what happens here? The pollens, okay, from the one flower or which is present on one plant is transferred to the stigma of the flower that is present on the different plants, mother plant. So here you can say two plants are involved. Two plants are involved. Okay, and these plants will be unisexual, you can say, or you can also say they have unisexual flowers, or you can say they are dioecious. All right, you can say they are dioecious. All right. So xenogamy, this is known as xenogamy, when the pollens from the anther of one flower that is present on one plant is transferred to the stigma of the flower that is present on the different plant, another plant. This is known as xenogamy. Now there is one more type of pollination that is known as cleistogamy. Now, cleistogamy is also a type of autogamy. Means it is self-pollination only. So here self-fertilization occurs. Okay, it is very similar to autogamy. Means there is a transfer of the pollens to the stigma within the same flower. So example where cleistogamy takes place is Commelina or Commelina bengalensis. Okay, so this is a plant, and this is a unique feature of this plant. In this plant, both types of flowers are present, chasmogamous as well as cleistogamous. So in this, the pollination occurs by cleistogamy, which is a type of autogamy. Now, in chasmogamous flower, the flowers may undergo self-pollination or cross-pollination, while in the cleistogamous flower, the flower undergo only self-pollination because these are closed. That's why they undergo self-pollination only. This I've already explained you. Now let's talk about question number 10. Now here we have to give reasons as to why cell division cannot be a type of reproduction in multicellular organism. Okay, so cell division is a type of reproduction where in asexual reproduction. During asexual reproduction, what happens? Cell division takes place. Okay, so you can say wherever cell division is taking place, you can say it is a kind of asexual reproduction, and the primitive organisms which are unicellular and they have simple body organization, they multiply by asexual method, such as binary fission, which is a type of cell division only. Okay, so you can say binary fission, in which cell divisions take place. Okay, now the question they are asking, give reasons as to why cell division cannot be a type of reproduction in multicellular organisms. So multicellular organism, usually what happens? Sexual reproduction takes place. Okay, and what does sexual reproduction involves? Okay, formation of gametes. In this, two parents are involved. All right, two parents are involved here. And what happens during sexual reproduction? It happens in the complex organism. Okay, now let's have a look at the answer. In unicellular animals, cell division is the means of reproduction to increase their number. Okay, while in case of the multicellular organisms, they have well-developed reproductive organs. Okay, so in multicellular organism, they are complex and they consist of reproductive organs which help in reproduction. All right, and in unicellular organism, what happens? Whole body participate in the reproduction process, but what happens in the in sexual reproduction? Whole body is not involved. Only a part of a body is involved. So the whole body does not participate in the reproduction. Okay, like unicellular organisms. All right, so this is clear. Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 11. So in the figure given below, mark the ovule and the pericarp. So this is a figure they have given you. So this is a pod. Okay, so this is a kind of a fruit. So here you have to mark the ovule and the pericarp. So let's discuss what is the pericarp. So pericarp, you must be knowing that pericarp is known as the fruit wall, or wall of the fruit is known as the pericarp. Okay, or you can say the outer margin. Okay, or you can say the outer wall. Outer wall of the ovary develops into the pericarp. And pericarp has three layers. Okay, or it consists of three regions. First is exocarp. Then we have the mesocarp. And then we have the endocarp. Alright, so these are the regions of what? Pericarp. Okay, now what is an ovule? So ovule, if we discuss about the ovule, so ovule is a part of the ovary, or it is present within the ovary. It is part of the ovary. Okay, or you can say it is present within the ovary, and it consists of germline cells. Okay, it consists of germline cells. Okay, ovule, you already know. If you know about the structure of the ovule, it consists of nucellus, it consists of other structures, it consists of integuments. Okay, so I will draw a rough diagram of a ovule here. Okay, so ovule, I'm drawing a rough diagram here. So the outer region, okay, consists of the integuments. So this is the integument. Okay, there are two integuments. Okay, one more here. Okay, this is known as the micropylar region. This is known as the micropylar end, or you can say this is known as the chalazal end or the chalazal region. Okay, in the center you have two polar nuclei. Here you have the antipodals, and here you have the one is axle and other two are synergids. All right. So I will draw the inner part again. Okay. This is the inner region. This is the axle. These are the synergids. This is the axle, and these two are synergids. Okay, then we have two polar nuclei here. These are the polar nuclei. Then at the chalazal end, three antipodal cells are present. Okay, so this is a very rough structure of the ovule. Alright, now ovule, develops into the seed after fertilization. So in this figure, you have to label the ovule and the pericarp. Ovule, remember, develops into what? It develops into seed. And ovary develops into fruit. So, in flowering plants, let's have a look at the answer. In flowering plants, the zygote is formed inside the ovule. Alright, how is zygote formed? By the fertilization of the male and the female gamete. So, the male gamete will fertilize or will fuse with the egg cell. Okay, and then it will form the zygote. Egg cell I've already showed you, which was present at the micropylar end. That egg cell will fuse with the male gamete. Okay, and then it will form the zygote, and the zygote is formed inside the ovule. Now, after fertilization, what happens? The sepals, petals, and the stamen of the flower wither off and fall off. Okay, and the pistil, however, remains attached to the plant. Pistil, is made up of ovary, style, and stigma. So only the pistil remain attached to the plant, and after fertilization, sepals, petals, stamens, they fall off, they wither off. Okay, so here is the labeling. So these are the ovules. Okay, ovules are nothing but they will develop into seeds. So they are seeds. And pericarp. So this region is the pericarp. This region, not this region, this region. This region is the pericarp. And it is green color here. You must have seen this is of green color. So this is the pericarp. I am just, okay. You must have seen, you already know that it is of green color. So this is the pericarp. Alright. Now, the zygote develops in the embryo. Okay, after zygote will develop into embryo and the ovules develop into seed. The ovary develops into the fruit. This I've already told you, which develops a thick wall known as pericarp. Alright, that is protective in function. So pericarp is known as the fruit wall. Okay, so this is clear. Now, question number 12. Why do gametes produced in large number in organism exhibit external fertilization? Alright, so let's have a look at the answer for this question. Here is the thinking process. This will help you answer this question. So in most aquatic organisms, so external fertilization takes place usually in the aquatic organisms, okay, which live in water. So they release the gametes in the water and the fertilization takes place outside the body. So in most aquatic organisms, such as majority of algae and fishes, as well as amphibians, syngamy, which means the fusion of the gametes in sexual reproduction, occurs in external medium, which is mostly water, and this happens outside the body of the organism. So this type of genetic fusion is called external fertilization. Okay, so this you have to remember first before answering this question. Now, organisms that take part in such processes produce large number of gametes. Okay, why they produce large number of gametes? First, in external fertilization, there is a great chance that the sperm and the eggs released by the organisms can be affected by factors present in the environment like desiccation, predators, and etc. Okay, so to make up for the high fatality rate, or you can say high death rate, because okay, there are a lot of predators present there, okay, and desiccation can also happen. So they can lose the gametes, okay, because of these environmental factors. Okay, so death rate is very high, fatality rate is very high. So because of that, the organism produce lot of gametes. So it is a kind of the survival strategy, okay, to produce large number of gametes. Okay, so they are doing it to survive so that they should have some offerings. Okay, now producing large number of gametes increases the chance, okay, increasing chance for at least some eggs and sperm to meet in the environment. Okay, so there is more number of gametes, more is the chance of fusion of the eggs and the sperms, and this ensures that at least a stable number of offerings are able to survive and carry on. Okay, otherwise they will get extinct. It will if they will produce less number of gametes. So they produce large number of gametes so that they can survive, okay, and produce offerings in a stable number. All right. Now let's move on to the next question, question number 13. Which of the following are monoecious and dioecious organism? Okay, monoecious, you know, dioecious also you know. Dioecious represents the unisexual condition. Okay, where the plant is either male or either female. Monoecious, okay, kind of you can say hermaphrodite in animals. Both the male and female reproductive organs are present in the same plant. All right. Now options are earthworm, Chara, Markantia, and cockroach. Okay. So let's have a look at the answer. So earthworm. Earthworm is a hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite means both the male and the female sex organs are present in the same organism. So earthworm is a monoecious animal. It is hermaphrodite. Now Chara. Chara is an algae. It is also a monoecious plant. Markantia. Markantia is also a dioecious plant. Means the male and the female sex organs are present on the different plant. Okay, so there will be male Markantia and female Markantia. Cockroach. Okay, scientific name is Periplana americana. Periplanta americana. It is also a dioecious animal. So you can see either there is a male cockroach or there will be a female cockroach. So they are also dioecious animals, or you can say they are unisexual. Okay, hermaphrodite, or you can say bisexual. This is clear. Now, here is a note I've given. Now, in several fungi and plants, terms such as homothelic, this you have to remember, homothelic and monoecious are used to denote the bisexual condition. And what is bisexual condition? Where male and female reproductive structures are present in the same plant. Whereas heterothalic, hetero means different, thalic means thallus. Okay? Heterothalic and dioecious are the terms used to describe the unisexual condition. Means the male and the female reproductive structures are present on different plants. Now, organisms are either male or female. Okay? Means they can be unisexual or they can be bisexual. Alright? So this you already know. So you have to remember these terms. Homothalic, monoecious, or you can say bisexual. These are all related to, okay, bisexual condition, and heterothalic, dioecious, these are related to unisexual condition. Alright. Now let's move on to the next question. Now here you have to match the organisms. Okay, so these are the organisms. Okay, and these are the vegetative propagules. In column 2, you have to match whether bryophyllum is offset, it is an eye, whether it is a leaf, or leaf bud exists in bryophyllum, eyes exist in bryophyllum, or eyes are present in potato. So you have to match the following. Okay. So all these offset, eyes, leaves bud, bulbils, these are vegetative propagules, or they are the vegetative structures. Okay. So this is the answer here. In bryophyllum, bryophyllum is a plant. Vegetative propagule present in bryophyllum is a leaf bud. Okay. What is a leaf bud? Leaf bud, these are the meristematic cells. Okay. Or you can say the meristematic tissues present in the, you can say, tip of the branch or tip of the shoot or the axil of the leaf. And these leaf bud develop into what? They can develop into shoots or they can develop into the flower. And leaf buds, they are nothing but these are the meristematic cells. Alright, these are the meristematic cells, okay, which are present in the tip of the branches or in the axil of the leaf. Now, agave, bulbils are present in agaves. Okay, so bulbil, they develop instead of the flower. Okay, so bulbils are present in agave. Potato, you already know, eyes are present in the potato tuber. Okay, so what does these eyes represent? These eyes are nothing but the nodes present on the potato tuber. And offsets are present in water hyacinth. Okay, what is offset? Offset is a part of the branch. It is the part of the branch or stem that is involved in what? That is involved in asexual reproduction or vegetative propagation. Okay, vegetative propagation is a, or you can say vegetative reproduction is a kind of asexual reproduction. Alright, so this is the answer to this question. Now, in plants, the unit of vegetative propagation such as runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb, these are all capable of giving rise to new offerings. So these structures are called vegetative propagules. Okay, so this is clear. Now question number 15. What do the following parts of a flower develop into after fertilization? So this is very straightforward. This you already know. After fertilization, what happens? What happens to ovary? Ovary develops into the fruit. Okay, and within ovary, what is present? Ovules. Ovules is present inside the ovary. Okay, so ovary, you know, it is a swollen base. This is the ovary, this is the style, and this is the stigma. This is the stigma, this is the style, and this is the ovary. And ovules are present inside the ovary. So suppose this is the ovule. Imagine, I'm just drawing a rough diagram. Ovules are present inside the ovary. So ovules develop into seeds after fertilization. Okay. So this is the fruit, you can say. And within fruit, seeds are present. Okay. This is clear? Now, so ovary develops into fruits and ovules develop into seed after the fertilization. Alright. And what happens to the sepals, petals and all? They fall off, they wither off. Only pistil is attached. Pistil only remain attached to the plant. Now after fertilization, okay, zygote develops, this you already know. And zygote develops into the embryo later on. And the ovules develop into seed. Okay, and the ovary develops into the fruit, which develops a thick protective wall called as pericarp. Okay, pericarp is known as the fruit wall. Alright, so this was the end of very short answer type questions. Okay, we'll be solving the rest of the questions in the next lecture. Thank you very much.